All right, so for today's review lesson, we're going to be focusing mostly on just how to put stuff on the screen. I think we all need a soft start. I don't know about you guys, but I kind of wanted just a chill day to get going again. So we're going to remember how to draw a picture. And you know, when I made a list of things, I was like, wow, there's actually quite a few things to remember about that. So I don't think we're going to be bored today. I think we're actually going to be quite busy getting this done. So the things I wanted to remind you about, I'll make a little list here. I'll make some comments. Hey, did you know you can make a comment like this? You can go /* and then */, and then everything in between is already automatically a comment. Isn't that nice? Before we use just the double slash, and that was nice because you could select something and press Command or Control / and comment stuff out. So that was good. Does anybody remember why we make comments? What's comments for? Thanks.
So you don't get lost when going back over.
Yeah, that's definitely a good example. So you could put in like notes about stuff, so you can remind yourself, oh yeah, I got to do this, or this is how this works, and so on. A great way to add notes. What does the computer do with comments? Does it like know what's in there or care what's in there? No, a computer ignores that stuff. So you could put in, whatever you want into a comment, and it's good. Usually the first thing we put on our main tab comment is our name. So I'll stick in my name here, and we can put in the date, September 10. There we go. Review 1. I don't know. I feel like adding a -1 or something. I don't know, just review day 1. Drawing. So I just want to you don't have to type this down, but if you want, actually my font's a little smaller, hey? When I am programming on my own, I don't actually program in the giant font that's on my videos. A little bit bigger than my usual small font, but let's change that. By the way, you can change your preferences. If you go to, on a Mac, it's processing menu and then preferences. But Control comma will get you straight there on a PC and Command comma on a Mac. And I like programming in size 24, to be honest. How many of you have missed a semicolon just because it's so small, right? So 24 is actually, that seems like it's so big. Would you type a essay in 24-point font? No, but this is great here. But for us, I'll put it up to 36 to make sure everyone can see. Everyone can see okay? Great. So yeah, this is what comments are. So here's the things we're going to review. First of all, we're going to talk about the coordinate system. Basically, one word, 2 words, 3 words. A hyphenated word. Upside down, y-axis is really the main thing to talk about. Although there's also where's the origin, where's 0, 0. So we'll go over those things. Then we're going to list some drawing functions. So I want to remind you about, and there's more, but we'll talk about these ones. Line, circle, / ellipse. We kind of use both. The rect and triangle. So we're going to go over those things. And when we go over them, we want to know how to draw stuff on the screen, but more importantly, we'll talk about what is a function. How do you work with a function? Because there's more than just drawing functions. So the idea of functions in general. What are arguments? And where do you put them? That kind of thing. So that'll be important. 3, talk about layering and how you put something on top of something else. You might remember, you might not. It's the quiz question that most people got wrong last year, so I think it's worth going over. How do you make a circle on top of a rectangle versus the other way around? So that'll be good. We'll talk a bit about how to do colors. I'm going to spell it the American way. Not because I'm not a patriotic Canadian, but because, gosh darn it, the Americans made most of the programming languages, so they just spelled color the American way. So I'll type it even in the notes this way so we don't get confused. But, you make your own choice, except for when you're programming, and then you can't make your own choice. You have to use the American spelling. But you can choose here. So colors, we're having both stroke and fill. We have to think about how we use them and how we choose them. So what order do you put these commands in, these functions in, and how do you describe a color? And there's actually several different ways. So we'll go over those things. And then the last but not least will be the spiciest of all the topics, and that's going to be transformations. And we're going to talk about things like push and pop matrix. And this is where people will probably start feeling uncomfortable if they haven't been already. Push pop matrix. I'll just put it, there's no space there, but we'll just put it there. And things like translate and rotate as well. We'll mostly be using those next class, but we'll play with them a bit today. So that'll be good to remind ourselves. And then when we get back on Monday, you might want to review it, and then we'll do more with those things on Monday. So that's the plan of what I'd like to go over today. And it's actually kind of a lot, isn't it? It's not a small amount. So please ask questions as we go. If I'm going too fast, you can let me know or you can just interrupt me. If I am leaving out some details that you want to ask about, please feel free. You'll notice that there's definitely some stuff that's not on here that we talked about last year. Obviously, we're just doing drawing, but even within drawing, there are some other details. So we might have to just kind of come back to those things later. We just don't have time to cover every single detail, but I think this will be a good place to start. Okay, so let's make a screen with a coordinate system in it. Does anybody remember how you make a window pop up with a certain amount of space to draw stuff in? Thanks, here. Size, yeah. So this is our first function we're going to learn. So we have size. Size creates a window of a particular size. And then you go parenthesis, parenthesis. And inside of these parentheses go your arguments, which are just values. They could be number values. Usually they're numbers, and everything we're going to do today, they're numbers. But they don't always have to be. Sometimes they're true, false. Sometimes they're words. But right now we'll put in numbers. The first number is a width, and the second number is a height. Width, height. It always goes width, height, width, height. So I'll put in a width of, say, 600 for width and 800 for height. And of course, at the end, you put in a semicolon. When you're done a line of code, you put in a semicolon. We did it, folks. We wrote a program. And you can do anything, right? We're not so rusty that we can't do this. If you run the program, you just hit the little play button at the top, or Command R or Control R if you're on a PC, and it'll run your program and give you a big, beautiful window. Oh, wait, 600, 800. Actually, I want to do 800, 600. Oh, I'll just leave it the way it is. I'm not sure why I expected it to be the other way around. So there it is. It's like a nice, almost like a piece of paper. It's a little bit taller than it's long. Love it. Notice it's got a default background color of gray. No problem. We're just going to rock the gray today. Okay, so when where it's running this, and I guess this isn't going to work so well on the video, but maybe I'll just use the mouse to gesture. I'll just remind you that the coordinate system is alive and well right here. There's a whole XY grid that's invisible, and the origin is on what corner? Does anybody remember? The top left. That's right. This is actually 0, 0, right up here where the close button is on my Mac. So you can just kind of remember that for now. That's where 0, 0 is. And then the x-axis is, goes along. You can think of this as goes along the side here. It's normal. Every x-axis is exactly like this one. So it just increases. The maximum value is going to be 600 over on this corner because I said it's 600 wide over here. And then as you go down with the y-axis, you also increase values, which is always difficult to remember because especially if you're been just studying math and you're rocking math and you've just been doing so many graphing, this and that, you're doing parabolas left and right, you got no fear of, making the quartic functions, all that kind of stuff. You've seen the y-axis the exact opposite way for many years. So it can be confusing, but it does actually increase as it goes down. So this will be 0 for the y value, and at the bottom will be positive 800. You just have to keep that in mind as you're programming. It turns out all programming languages, all video games, all computer software that interacts with the screen, treats the screen this way. It's because that code is sort of descended from the old times when it had no room for a negative sign. If you put in a negative sign, to say this is going to be negative 800, that requires one more bit of information, one more 0 or 1. And so they were like, let's just make it positive and flip it upside down. So we had to save one last piece of information. So that's why they did it. And why is it in the corner? That's the exact same reason. They don't have to have positive and negative values. Everything that's within the screen can be described as positive numbers. You might remember, though, that you can go off screen, though. You can say, I'm going to put something at x is negative 100. Remember that beautiful animation we created that was possibly a bunny rabbit who was, gliding across the screen. Mine was just a severed head of a bunny. I hope I didn't traumatize anybody. But it just glided across the screen, and it went off the screen, and then teleported back. So you can definitely use negative coordinates if you want to, but that's the reason why they did that. Wow, we've talked a whole lot and just made size. So we'll keep on going. Before we go further, questions so far? Anything you want to ask about? Okay, moving on. Check mark on coordinate system. I'll put a star to say we've covered that now. Okay, drawing functions. You'll notice I'm not using void setup and void draw yet. I'm not going to do that today. We're just going to use what's called static mode. So no void setup, no void draw. It means that there's no loop. It's just going to draw a picture. That's all it's going to do for now. Okay, so now let's remember those functions for drawing shapes on the screen. So the first one we're going to do is line. It's very descriptive. It draws a line. And the way you describe the line you want is by giving it two pairs of numbers. An xy for one point and the xy of the other point. And then it connects those 2 points and figures out the slope and all that kind of stuff to draw the line on the screen. So for example, here's a little pop quiz, I guess is what I'll say, but it's not for marks or anything. But I'm gonna type in some numbers here. I want you to imagine what line will be created. You ready? Yeah? Yeah, okay. 0. 600. No, I'm going to change that. Let's make it 600, 0. And we'll do 0, 800. There we go. There's my line. So remember, this is one coordinate, an xy pair, and this is another coordinate, an xy pair. Always xy, xy. Everybody have it in their imagination, what it is? So you don't have to tell me what it is. I'm just going to run it, and then you're going to see if you're right. If you're right, great. If you're wrong, also great. And think about what it was that you misunderstood. It's a different line. Here it is. Whoa, going from one side to the other. So do you see how this point here is 600, 0. X is 600, so all the way over. Y is 0, so it doesn't come down at all. And then this corner here is 0, 800. 0 because it's no amount this way, and 800 is all the way down. Okay, I'm going to give you another one. Again, just play along in your imaginations. I'm going to just copy and paste this one, and you'll probably catch on what I'm doing here. What about that line? So think about what that is. I clearly reversed the first point and the second point. It's the same line. So one thing I know students sometimes ask me about is, does the order of the pairs matter? And it doesn't matter. You could put the leftmost coordinate or the rightmost coordinate. It doesn't matter. It just makes 2 points. 1 point and another point, and then connects them. However, if I scramble it up more, like if I separate the x's and the y's, then it will start to change. Okay, now it's your turn. I want you to program in a line that goes the other way. It goes from the top left to the bottom right. So it'll make an X afterwards. Go ahead and try it out. If you're not sure, just try. Just give it a try. Try to get over that, I don't know what the word is. Not fear exactly, but that reluctance to be wrong. It's okay to be wrong. That's how we learn. Don't worry if someone beside you has already done it. They got like a picture of a hippopotamus already drawn. They don't feel bad. Or whatever it is. We are all at different places, and that's wonderful. Okay. Give you guys another 10 seconds to see if you can get it, and then we'll reveal the answer. Okay, what is the answer? What's the first point? 0, 0, that's right. That is the top left corner. And what's the second point? 600, 800. You got it. Let's run it just to confirm. There it is. There's our lovely X. So Also, one other thing to mention, when you're programming, like I'm not going to just teach you, and at the very end run and see what all the things are, right? We do one thing and we run it. We do another thing and we run it. Always program that way. Don't write a whole beautiful program and be like, I hope it works, and run, and then you have like 15 different errors or more, and you don't know where you went wrong. It's always good to test as you go. All right, so we got line pretty well. Let's move on to circles and ellipses. They're basically the same, except a circle is an ellipse with the same width and height. So there's only one number for them. So let's do ellipse first. Ellipse. I'm going to put it, oh, how about you put it at the center? Can you draw an ellipse at the center? And let's make it, say, let's make it 200 wide and 300 tall. 200 wide, 300 tall at the center. Give it a shot. 200 wide, 300 tall. So a bit taller than it is wide. $200 wide, 300 tall. I should write it on the screen, really? 200 wide, 300 tall. I think my grammar is a little off there. Okay, everyone give it a shot? Okay, so what did you use for the coordinates of the center of the screen? I'm hearing it, but a little louder, please. 300, 400, you got it. And you might have noticed that's just taking the width and height divided by 2. So we'll do that 300, 400, and then we have a 200 wide, 300 tall. Semicolon at the end. Anybody forget their semicolons yet? I still forget semicolons every once in a while. Although, I recently started programming in Python, because my son was. In Python, you do not have to put a semicolon at the end. But I can't stop myself. I put it at the end every time. I have to like delete every semicolon I write. Here it is. There's my circle. 200 wide, 300 tall. And oh, notice it's got a color inside. So remember that certain shapes, basically everything but lines, I guess, they have a fill color and the default is white. Okay, what's the difference with a circle? A circle is just an ellipse with the same width and height, so you just put one number in there. So let's make like a weird kind of reptile eye in the center. So make it a circle using the circle function and make it nestle inside of right inside of here. I know the people on this video can't see me. Right inside of here. Make that 200 by 2 or 200 diameter circle fit right inside of that thing there. And that's the circle function. Yeah? Let's do it. I'll put in my circle. So circle, same coordinate. I'll put it at 300, 400. And then I just type in 200. For a circle, it knows that's the width and the height. So you just put in one number. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a circle, right? So if I run that, oh, check it out. Ooh, there it is. That didn't look like an eye. Actually. I don't know how to work that. Someone here will figure it out. Are you a person, or do you know a person who loves to draw anime eyes? Like just like over and over again? Oh, come on in. Thanks, Trisha. We got the video going on, so you'll be able to catch anything you missed out. This is what we made. It's beautiful. But it's far from what you guys can see. Okay, that's great. All right, so moving on. We got one other thing to do, and that is we got two other things. Rectangle. Rectangle is a little weird compared to circles and ellipses. I mean, I guess I shouldn't say weird. They're just different because the center of a rectangle is, by default, not the center of its mass, but is the top left corner. So the rectangle function is rect, and if I was to type in 0, 0, that will be the top left-hand corner of the rectangle. So this is the top left-hand corner. You might remember there's a way to change that, but we won't talk about that today too much. But I'm not going to hide it from you. I'll let you know later. And then we give it a width and a height. So something like 200, 400. So just imagine what you think that will look like. When I run that, don't run it yourself. imagine it. See if you can be processing and like think about what it is. So these two arguments, these two numbers here, that's your top left corner, followed by a width and a height. Everyone have a mental image of what they think it's going to be? Okay, I'm going to run it. Let's see if you were right. There it is. So the reason why it's situated at the top is because 0, 0 is the top left corner. There it is. It's got a width of 200, so it's, 1/3 of the distance across here. And it's got a height of 400, which is halfway down. So that's why we got that particular rectangle. It gets a little bit hard to sort of position rectangles when it is in the top left-hand corner. So maybe I'll just mention right now while we're at it, there is a way to change that so that these two numbers are the center of the rectangle. And it looks like this: rect mode center, all caps, and spelt the American way. If I run that, nothing's going to change, however, because it's only every rectangle you draw afterwards that's going to change. So now if I was to make a rectangle at, say, the center of the screen, 300, 400, and I was to give it a width of 200, 200, then we will see that show up at the center now. So that's like, there it is, that's the coordinate. Kind of want it to be a little smaller so I can see my other beautiful stuff, so I'll bring that down to 100, 100. And there we go. Oh, we're so close to an anime eye. Look how close we are. Just kidding. There's no way near. We got a long way. There's no squares. Okay, moving on. Last shape is the triangle. And this one is generally, we didn't use it that much last year, right? We maybe did something with, I don't even know. Didn't use much triangles because they're annoying. Look at a triangle. A triangle is basically 3 points, and then it draws lines between all three. The order of the points doesn't matter, just like a line. You can put the points in whatever way you want. So I'm going to type up a triangle right now. So the first coordinate I'm going to put as 0, 0. The second coordinate I'm going to put as 300, 800. And the last coordinate I'm going to put as 600, 0. I hope I did what I think I was supposed to do. And I want you to think about what is that triangle going to look like? And how are you supposed to know? You can type it in and just run it if you want, but try to think of it beforehand and think, what is that going to look like? Because if you can guess it, that means you understand it intuitively. And I'll just remind you, if anyone's struggling, like, I really don't know what this is going to look like. Here's one corner of the triangle. Here's another corner. Here's the third corner. Okay, shall I run it? And we'll see if our predictions are correct. All right, here we go. Hopefully it gets what I was expecting to. Yeah, that's what I was hoping to make. So there's our triangle. So with these 4 shape functions, we can do a whole bunch of stuff. And you guys started making all sorts of different drawings with this. We started off with the robot drawing last year. That was lovely. Some people went above and beyond and made like R2-D2 and like sunsets and like all sorts of crazy stuff, and it was really cool. So, we won't go too hard on that today. I think I will rearrange things now a little bit. So we've talked a bit about the shape functions. Now let's talk about the layering. So I'll check off shape functions, drawing functions, I guess I call them. So let's talk about layering next. So layering, you might have noticed as we're doing it, or you might just remember, that the order of the code determines what things are drawn on top of each other. So you might notice that the triangle was drawn last, and it covered up our circles and lines and everything, right? Because whatever you coded last is drawn on top of everything else. And just to really prove the point, I'll say rect 0, 0, 600, 800. That's a rectangle that should cover the entire screen. And sure enough, oh wait. Oh, there it is! Rect mode center. Love it. So what should I do? Oh, that's one answer. So I could change it back. If you wanted to change it back, you would say rect mode corner. And you're right because it turned purple. So that'll put it back. Yeah. Or if I didn't know it was called corner, what would I do with these numbers here? If it was still rect mode center, what would I type in here? Yeah, if I wanted to cover up the whole screen. Oh, the middle of the screen. Yeah, thank you. Sorry. You got it. 300, 400. And then that'll also work. So depending on what you want there. So yeah, the last thing drawn is what gets drawn on top. And it will obliterate everything else. So yeah, there you go. And actually in processing, all these things are drawn to a separate layer. And you won't really know this until we use the draw function. But they all get drawn, and at the very end of the draw function, that's when the thing is placed on the screen. And when it's a static mode sketch, it is all drawn to something called a buffer, same thing with the draw, and then just gets placed on the screen, but it's not going to update it at all. So all this stuff gets drawn one thing at a time, and then eventually gets put on the screen at the very end. So that's why we don't see anything. So let's rearrange this a bit. I'm going to put the rect at the top now. So I'm going to cut the rect, and you guys can rearrange it however you want. But I want to get all those things a little bit more visible. So I'm going to put the rect at the top. Oh, actually, here's what I'll do. I'm gonna close this. You person on the video, sorry, you're gonna see it. You're gonna get spoiled. But I'm gonna rearrange it a bit. I want you to find a way to match it. So I'm gonna just do a little rearranging. Ooh, how's that gonna look there? Yeah, I don't really want that one. Yeah, let's get rid of that. Yeah. Okay. Okay, here we go. Now I haven't deleted any lines of code. And I will put that on the screen here. Okay. Okay, so I have not deleted any lines of code. And now my screen looks like this. So, oh, wait, you're not supposed to see. I'll hide those. Can you reorder yours to make it look like this too? Go ahead and do that now, just to get the feeling of how layering works, right? You'll notice like this is on top of this now, which is on top of this. That was true before, but now our triangle is here. It seems to be on top of that, or underneath this line. The other lines disappeared. I didn't delete any lines of code though. I've just put them underneath this big rectangle that's in the background. So rearrange your lines of code so that you end up getting that shape there. And don't worry if you can't get it exactly. Just notice as you rearrange things what happens. This actual picture isn't special or important. It's just seeing how the layering works. You might notice that when you move your rectangle above the rect mode center, it suddenly goes back to being rect mode corner. So feel free to adjust the coordinates of that big rectangle in the background. Or put in some kind of rect mode corner or something like that. If you're watching the video at home, this is the part where you can fast forward if you didn't figure it out. So how tricky is this, folks? Are you finding it confusing of how to get it where we're at here? Is that a tricky exercise, or are you mostly getting there? I've seen some like the old shake hand left right thing, so it means probably you're maybe stuck on one part of it. Seeing some thumbs up, so some people got it. That's great. Everyone's going to be at different places. Some people will have taken it more recently than others. Some people will have remembered more than others. Some people have been practicing. So don't feel bad at all. Is there anything in particular anybody's wondering about or not sure about? You could, but I did it. I just rearranged my rectangles and stuff. So my big rectangle that covered the screen at the end, I raised it up higher in the code. And then it covered up other things instead. Yeah, that's tricky, right? And I know this is tricky because this is the #1 quiz question in Programming 11 that gets people. Where it's like, I draw the concentric circles. Which circle goes on the bottom? The smallest one, right? So that's tricky. So wherever you are in this, I'm going to show you my answer anyways, just so you can get, like maybe if you're stuck or something, can get moving forward. We've got about half an hour left in class, so I want to give you a chance to just play with things. So I'll move it aside, and maybe I'll just kind of, what's the word, like not full screen this, like just put it over to the side here. Move this over, and then we can just see. Ooh, look, it's OBS. I love the infinity screen it gives you. Okay, so that rectangle and that line that goes, I guess, this way, I put those first. And then the rectangle that covers the whole screen went third. That's why you don't see these two things. I don't see that kind of weird corner rectangle that was like up in the corner, and I don't see the line that goes this way. This way to people on the video. You don't see that anymore because they're covered up by this guy here. If I was to delete that, just comment it out, command / they're there. Like you'll see them now if I run it again. There they are. They were always there. They haven't gone away, but they were covered up by this guy. So I'll put that back in. And then after that, we just got, the triangle next. So it's drawn next. Then we have the line that crosses over the triangle. Then the ellipse, the circle, and then the rectangle that's in the center. So that's the stack of things that I did. Any questions about that, folks? All right. So hopefully it's making sense about the layering stuff, and this is all review. But if you are struggling with it, you are going to have an activity to do at the end of the class. You can just kind of experiment with it yourself and see what you can do. So depending on how much practice you need, you could always take that assignment home over the weekend and just do some extra programming. If you're finding this is pretty easy, great. I'm so happy you're not feeling too rusty, and that's, you'll be fine. Okay, we have just a couple more things to do. So that's layering. I'll go full screen again. Oh, maybe not full screen because then I have to swipe and Okay. So colors. Actually, there's one other thing: stroke, fill, and stroke weight as well. Ooh, I spelled it right. Capital W always gets people. Okay, so stroke, fill, and stroke weight are all ways of changing the colors, or in the case of stroke weight, the thickness of either the outside line or the inside fill color. So I'm going to go to the bottom rectangle, and just before that, I'm going to type in the stroke and fill, just to try things out. So how do you put in a color? So there's a number of different ways we learned. We learned that if you type in, say, stroke, you can then type in a number between 0 and 255 to get a shade of gray. I still haven't written that novel, 256 Shades of Gray, but I'm working on it. Got half a manuscript, and I swear it's great. Does anyone remember what 255 means? Is that white or black? White. You got it. And 0 is? Black. You got it. And then something in between is a shade of gray. So because it's from 0 to 255, 0 is also a value, so that's 256 shades of gray. Not 50, 256. So if I was to say 100, for example, it'd be a little bit closer to black. And you can see it's like kind of gray, a little more gray than before. I'll make it a little more obvious. I'll make it 200. And we'll see that it's like really gray now. But what if you don't want a shade of gray? What if you want some vibrant colors? So by default, we have we can give it a different set of arguments. We can give it a number for red, green, and blue, RGB. In paint, it's red, yellow, blue, right, for the primary colors. In light, like these pixels are shining light out at you, when you're mixing light together to make colors, it's red, green, and blue are your primaries. So you just put in 3 numbers. The first one is how much red, the second is how much green, and the third is how much blue. So I'm going to put in, sure, 200, 100, 0. Oh, I don't even know. Actually, I'm going to make it 0 and 100. Because I don't know what happens when you mix red and green together. But I know if you mix red and blue, you should probably get purple, right? So I'm expecting kind of a reddish purple. So I got 200 red, 0 green, and 100 blue. So if I run that, do I get kind of a purpley color? Oh, I did. Awesome. So that's another way to mix colors. But are you supposed to just guess? You're like, I'm trying to like make the Vancouver Canucks logo and I have to like guess the shade of blue? Nope, you don't have to. There's a color selector. So up here in Tools, you can go to Color Selector and you can like play around with this thing and you can get, I don't know how to zoom on a Mac, I forgot. Oh, there we go. Oh, I remembered. Muscle memory. Love it. So you can just kind of pick the color. Here's kind of the Canuck shade of blue, maybe. I don't know. And I can just read the red, green, blue values right here, these 3 numbers. So I can type in 60, 107, and 198 and get that shade of blue. So that works out nicely. Let's see. You also, in colors, learned that you could use the hex code as well. So you can use this code here. So this code also means that color of blue. You could type in that code for fill or for stroke, and it'll give you that color if you just want to use one argument. I don't remember if you type in the hashtag or not. Let's find out. I will stroke with that. Yep, it likes the hashtag, so you can put in the hashtag. So there you go. Now I got that color blue going on there. And then we also learned about some really fun websites that are like social media sites, but for color schemes. But I forget which one we used last year. We did use Color Lovers, but maybe one didn't use Color Lovers. Was there another one we used? No, that was my grade 10 class. I found another one, but I forgot what it is. Colorlovers.com has more ads than it used to, so I'm kind of moving away from it. But it's still useful. So if you want to like get a nice set of color schemes, like if you're not an artist, it's a great resource to just Google this stuff and find out what are nice colors. So that's how stroke works. There's also fill. So I'm going to leave stroke there, and I'm going to do fill. I'm going to choose green because apparently I'm going with the Vancouver Canucks colors today. So fill, you just give it a number, and then the next thing afterwards gets that color. So I'm going to go find an appropriate-ish. I'm not going to work too hard at it, but find a green that's kind of Vancouver Canucksy green. I don't know, does that look okay? Not bad? Good enough? Okay, I'll copy over that hashtag, or I could copy over the red, green, blue values. I'm lazy, so I'll just grab the hashtag. I'll cancel that, paste in here. So watch what fill does. Fill will fill the shape with that color. So my stroke and fill are filling that rectangle. Okay, so there you go. Stroke fill. There's also stroke weight with a capital W. And this says how thick will the line, which the technical term for that is stroke, how thick will that be? If I type in 10, it'll be 10 pixels thick. If I type in 100, it'll be 100 pixels thick. Default is 1. You can also type in 0, but technically you still see a very faint outline, and don't type in a negative number, it'll crash. So if I run this, you'll see the line gets thicker. Boop. All right. Now we got colors. So here's a skill testing question for you. Pop quiz. We watched the movie Speed over the summer, my wife and I. We haven't seen that movie for a long time. Has anyone here seen the movie Speed? It is the movie that made Keanu Reeves a star. No, Keanu Reeves, that's right. There we go. So he plays a police officer, and they are trying to catch a bus with a bomb on it, and if the bus ever drops below some speed, I don't know what it is, say 50 kilometers an hour, then the bus will blow up. And the whole movie takes place on the bus. It's as good as it sounds. Totally check that movie out. There's a Speed 2. Can you guess what happens? They're on a boat. And it's the exact same plot line, but on a boat. I'm waiting for Speed 3. That could be on an airplane. But actually, no, airplane's easy. Because you don't really, there's nothing in the way. Oh, trees, mountains. But you can just go in a circle. But a boat, you would think has the same problem. Nope, it's heading straight for land. Oh no, look out. You would think so, but there's various things that happen in the plot that make that not a reality. Oh man. The bus was a lot better. It's a lot more difficult and a lot more exciting things as it's going through the LA freeway. Anyways, he always says, there's the bad guys like pop quiz, hot shots, and that just reminds me of that. Anyway, since you didn't live in the 1990s, you have no knowledge of this, so I'm going to move on. Here's my pop quiz for you. I'm going to take this and I'm going to move it up. Watch this. I'm going to take all three of those and I'm going to move it to here, right above the circle. What do you think is going to happen? Don't say it out loud. Just think. Is the circle going to change? Is the circle and the rectangle going to change? Or just the circle? Are other things going to change? What's going to happen? Okay, let's see. Turns out, both the circle and the rectangle change. And the reason for that is because these functions mean that until we change it, every shape drawn after them will use those colors and that stroke weight. So that's how those work. If I was to stick this at the very beginning of the program, maybe right after size, then everything would have those fill and stroke weight and strokes. So that's how those functions work. You pick the color and then you draw the shape. It's really not intuitive because the word fill, a lot of people think, well, you draw the shape and then you fill it with a color because that's how the verb works, right? So it's not really a verb. It's more of a noun. What is your fill color? What crayons are you holding in your hand so that when you go to draw a shape, those are the ones you use to color them in? That's how I think of it. I'm picking up crayons with stroke and fill, and the stroke size is determining, or stroke weight is determining how thick my crayons are. If only we could adjust crayon thickness with like a number. So that's basically colors. That's basically we're done. So I don't want to go any further than that today because you've listened to me for a very long time. Thank you for your patience. Let's go wild now and draw a house. I want you to draw a house for me, folks. It doesn't have to be a beautiful house, and you can do whatever you want with it. Just practice with these things. Show me, though. Actually, we're going to leave transformations for next class. This would do too long. So we'll do that next class. But definitely demonstrate that you can use all these different functions, so try to put them in there. Yeah, I know houses don't tend to have a lot of ellipses, but think of something. Put a sun in the sky. I don't know. Demonstrate some layering there. Put something in front of something else. You know, a window in front of the wall. I don't know, whatever. Could be a hobbit home. Could be like a lot of circles in there. Who knows? And then color it up with some nice colors. I don't care really what it looks like. I just want you to get some practice time. Okay? And the rest of the class will just be practicing. I'm drawing a little house. If some grand inspiration has gripped you and you start drawing something that's not a house, I will not be sad, but do try to demonstrate, all these different things, and that'll be great. Great way to end the class. Okay? But if you don't have any particular drawing you want to create, a house is the one I would love to see. All right, everybody, get to it. I'll walk around to answer your questions. You might run into a problem as you do it. And we'll stop the video. Those of you watching this at home, you're welcome to also do this. And I'll be checking this next class. I'll just walk around and look at your house. And if you have something there to show me, you'll get a check mark. You don't have to have a master